Well, there it is. This was my bike I've had for probably 20 years. It's a Gary Fisher Tassajara, and I got it when I lived in my first apartment ever, so I had to have been around 20 or 21. And I lived there for a year or two and decided to get a bike, and this is downtown Overland Park. Bike shop that I bought it from is not even around. So here we are, an undetermined number of years later, deliberately so. I converted my bike to an e-bike, and what we've got here, we've got a front hub motor. It's a 1,000 watt, so fairly powerful. It goes around 20 to 25, I'd say 25 miles an hour, unassisted. And right now I'm charging my battery. I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a little fan going. That's my charger right there. And I don't really have a professional setup here yet. I don't even have all my cables tied down yet. But I've got my rack bag on the back. That's holding my battery. That's a 48 volt, 20 amp hour battery. The amp hours is the range, and the volts is the power, basically, or the speed. There's a whole list of ways to gauge how good a battery you have, but it's a good battery. And I've got my controller here on top. This is kind of the brains of the outfit. I've got my throttle up there on the handlebars. You can see where the little thumb throttle is. It's kind of like a little moped or motorcycle or something. You push down on the throttle and the front wheel spins. And the cables are coming back here to this controller with a built-in heatsink on it. It's basically a fancy word for a metal case. It needs to stay cool because it gets kind of hot. All the electricity going from the throttle to the motor and from the battery to the motor, I guess, is all piped through here, so it could be quite hot. I stuck it in the bag at first and it actually got pretty hot. So right now the only thing I have in the bag is the battery, which is taking up about 2/3 of the bag, so it's a fairly big battery. I got a pretty powerful one that could go 20-25 miles before a charge, because I live about 14 miles from work, and these are lithium iron phosphate batteries, LiFePO 4 batteries. They're really big in China. They're a little harder to get hold of here. There's only a few dealers in the U.S. that have them, and I'm sure they come from China, so you're just kind of buying from a distributor, which is okay. As far as the rest of the stuff, it's just normal bike. You still have your gears on the back and the front. I have thumb shifters. So when you have thumb shifters on the handlebars, you really should have a twist throttle. But my kit came with a thumb throttle, so I'm going to upgrade that one these days to a twist. So if I want to, throttle up, I just twist it instead of my thumbs being kind of conflicted like they are now. Got a little headlight, a little tail light on the back for some night riding. I go to the gym and work out a little bit at night, and definitely gets dark around here, so I definitely need a headlight and a tail light, and of course my helmet. Got a few patch tire repair tools in there, my patches and some other little necessary tools, and water bottle and pump, air pump. But yeah, it's pretty much a normal bike. There's only a few special things I needed to do to run this front hub motor. I had to install what's called a torque arm. That's this wheels putting a lot of torque on your little dropouts there, the little places where the wheel axle bolts onto your forks. I installed the little torque arm, and it's pretty heavy duty. It's probably about a 1/4 inch thick, maybe a little, yeah, it's probably, actually, might be a little thicker than that. I'll have to look up the specs. I've got 3 hose clamps clamped onto my forks to keep it on nice and sturdy. Front wheel's not something that you want to come off. Actually, I'm thinking of getting another torque arm on this side, so I'll have 2. That's really the safest route to go. I'm pretty confident about my one torque arm, and most people just use one, but I think I'm going to go ahead and upgrade to 2, just to feel better about it for the longer term. And I think that's it. Basically, there's 3 different kinds of motors you can have. You can have a back wheel hub motor. You can have a mid-drive, which actually hooks into where your cranks are. And you can have a front. The fronts, typically, you don't want to go any more powerful than what I've got on there. It's 1,000 watt. And there's only so much power you want up front. Those forks just can't take, especially those little dropouts, they just can't take that kind of pressure. If you really want to, some people build bicycles that go at 50 miles an hour, which is obviously not legal, but they do it. Definitely want some sort of rear hub or maybe a mid-drive at that point. But I'm not going to go any faster than 25 or so, maybe a little faster on downhills and stuff. I do pedal at the same time. That helps the battery, and again, I can squeeze a little bit more speed out of it to get to work or home a little sooner, But yeah, that's about it. It costs just a few cents a day to charge this thing, and by charging it and using this, I don't have to use that, which is a gas guzzler. Jeeps in general are pretty bad on gas, and just cars in general are, you're leaving behind a pretty heavy carbon footprint, so it's very green, this kind of method. Electric bikes they're not as common in the U.S., but they're very common overseas, especially in countries like China. There's just thousands of them, maybe even millions. I'll have to look up the stats on Google. They've had them for a lot longer too. They're really popular in heavily congested cities where having a car is just not as practical as it is in some place like where I live, Kansas City. California actually has some specific laws for e-bikes that are not consistent. They're unique to that state. For example, they can lane share, which means if you're on a bike, you don't have to stay in the lane. You can squeeze in between lanes and even pass cars, and it's kind of it helps traffic congestion, and it's also a bit of a benefit to doing this. So you not only can go fast, you can kind of avoid some of the laws that you'd normally be hindered under just having a normal car. And it's kind of nice, when you pass a gas station, you're on one of these. It's like, don't have to stop, unless you want to drink or something, but you don't have to get any gas or anything, which is really nice. So that's it. That's my e-bike. Hopefully you guys, anybody interested, can check it out for yourself. And it's great fun, and it's pretty practical too.